So our last team is called Mountain Mates. It's a group of Chevening, CSC and Marshall alumni. Their topic focus is food security and they're from the USA, India, South Africa and Pakistan. Our presenter today will be Sibulele Ngomane and answering questions will be Geetanjali Singh. So over to you.
Good afternoon, judges and teams. I'm Sibulele, and I'm very proud to present our Mountain Mates policy. We will be focusing on the Hindu Kush Himalayas mountainous region, also known as the HKH region. Next slide, please. Our challenge focuses on securing the food and the livelihoods of the HK region. This region is characterized by a strong reliance on agriculture, both for income and for food availability. Due to the increase of due to the change in climate change, such as increase in weather patterns, there will be extreme weather patterns such as floods and droughts, which will lead to an impact to agricultural production in this region. Therefore, in order to make this region resilient to climate change, it is very important to also make it resilient to agriculture, which brings us to our solution. Next slide, please. Our solution will focus on reintroducing neglected and underutilized species in this region. These species include crops and livestock that have been bred for several generations to withstand extreme weather patterns. Examples include specific land races of buckwheat, amritha, specific types of legumes. We tend to implement this production policy by looking at specific neglected, underutilized species per region by creating a panel of these species that will then be implemented. We will focus on implementing our policy on a 3-pillar strategy. This will include first pillar, financial instruments that will make the production of these species affordable for farmers. This will include instruments such as low interest loans for farmers that would like to transition into this agricultural production. We'll have purchase assistance for equipment that focuses on making these crops and livestock more adaptable to extreme weather patterns. To move on to the next pillar, we will have training and capacity building, which will first of all ensure that the farmers are able to use the climate smart equipment, but are also able to share knowledge on indigenous practices when dealing with these crops and livestock. I think a very important part is to also create community awareness on the benefits of these species, such as highly nutritious food, a diverse diet, and also tremendous commercial potential. This brings me to the last pillar of our strategy. This will improve the awareness of these neglected, underutilized species by looking at implementing a geographic indicator for these tools. A geographic indicator is a trade instrument that's commonly used to tag foods that come from specific regions that have particular characteristics. Our species not only are indigenous, but are also climate resilient. Once these foods are GI tagged, we'll create a market logo that will be implemented for food that will be sold in local markets and also international supermarkets. A prototype for this GI tagged food is to our right, where we have a traditionally Himalayan stamp for the supermarkets. Next slide, please. So the most important aspect of our presentation in terms of the impact is that it cuts across multiple economic and climate change development pathways. What we saw when we're doing the hackathon, we realized that our policy actually has a triple bottom line impact, meaning that it will affect the people, the profits, and also the planet. In particular, for farmers, we foresee a stable income due to consistent crop yields. For consumers, we also see that there will be improved health outcomes due to the fact that most of the consumers are also farmers. So there'll be a reduction in poverty, but because consumers will be eating a diverse and nutritious diet, they will also be healthier. That's also a productive labor force. For the region, the most important is that it will be climate resilient, but also enhance biodiversity. We also noticed that our policy meets several sustainable—
1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Several sustainable development goals. And to our right, you can see some of the development goals that our policy will help to meet. Next slide, please. In our policy implementation, I think the very important aspect is that it is accessible, affordable, and scalable for the farmers and consumers, but also for the public policy makers in question. So to ensure that our policy is accessible, we will include stakeholders that are experts in this region, such as ICIMOD and the Food Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. These two organizations not only deal with our region in question, they also work very closely with food security at the intersection of climate change. To make sure that our policies are affordable, we work very closely with international governments, such as the German government, as an example, or also the British government, to help fund this project. In terms of scalability, we will look into rolling out our policy in a 6-phase project lifecycle. One of the most important phases that I would like to highlight is that we will establish a pilot country. Once this pilot country has been established, we will implement the 3-pillar strategy in this country and then monitor and evaluate the results. Once these results are in, we will iterate and customize it to the remaining countries and then roll it out. Another important aspect of our rollout is that we will consistently seek feedback from the farmers, community leaders such as pastors, and also consumers, to garner their feedback. Thus we can improve it for the other countries that we roll it out. Next slide, please. So that's our presentation. I'd like to thank you so much for organizing it. I would like to also introduce my colleagues or team members. We all have various skill sets. So some colleagues are agricultural biologists, some are economists, and some are climate change policymakers. I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you very much, Sibulele. Are there any questions from any of our judges?
Yes.
Great, Enrique, over to you.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what would be your main strategy to promote the implementation of this policy, and if you have any evidence of like this happening in some region, of like people starting to use again like traditional crops?
Yes, I think so first, to explain why we chose neglected, underutilized species. They're neglected mainly because of the lack of the advocacy of these species. So there's evidence that these species can withstand climate change, that the local populations can, nutritionally speaking, absorb these foods into their diet. So one of our main strategies, which we incorporated in the 3-pillar strategy, is the GI tags. So the GI tags will actually, first of all, create awareness from a legal and a policy point of view. So when doing research, we realized that a lot of these neglected species are not GI tagged. And I think once they are GI tagged, it will be able to have a strong market-facing campaign for the use in terms of the farming and also the consumption. So once, I think here you can also see, we can foresee strong supply-demand market forces. So once consumers are really intrigued in consuming these foods, farmers will also be more motivated to farm them. An example of a campaign that was nationwide is actually a couple of years ago, my country, South Africa, created a Proudly South African campaign, which promoted the consumption and the purchase of domestically produced products. And they also implemented a similar logo, which made it very easy for consumers when shopping for various options to actually pick out those food groups.